carry, 155.1 yards.
Morning, folks. Hi, Jean. Good morning. Morning, folks. 7 of you online so far. Good morning to you. Not quite as sunny as yesterday. Good morning, Helen. My #1 insulting member. Hope you're well. Can you hear me okay? And is the light okay? Just let me know, those of you that are online. Thank you, Will, and good morning to you. No, they're not all my divots. Thank you, Helen. Morning, Robert. No problem at all. Okay, so 12 of you online so far. Morning, folks. If you're just joining us, morning, Mel. Nice to see you. So sorry about the time change, folks. I got it wrong the first time for 10 o'clock. We sent an email out yesterday. Hopefully we captured as many of you as we could have done, but it seemed that 1 or 2 people missed it, and amongst all the other sort of emails that you're getting at the moment. Give it 2 or 3 more minutes. Hi, Sue. Good morning to you. Okay, we'll give it 2 or 3 more minutes, then we'll go and get started. 11:36. I know a few people have missed out on the time change, but hopefully they've caught up with it now. I've got my TrackMan outside today, so I've got plenty of data to work with, as well as the visual of the camera. And also I'm going to talk about the arts and the skill and the task of the game, not focus too heavily on the science today. We're doing session 2 today of swing building, working from the ground up. Okay, so 11:37. I think we'll get started. I think all the people that are online will be online now, so we're 7 minutes into it. So very warm welcome to you, and thanks ever so much for joining me again. 22 people, good morning, whoever's just joined us. So today's session, we're going to focus on some questions that have been sent from some members. Hi, Quentin. Nice shot, thank you. I'll give you some details on it shortly. So thanks again for joining. Today is session 2 of swing building from the ground up. Remember, the world's best player was Jack Nicklaus, and he spent all his time telling everybody to build the swing from the ground up. Work on your footwork and your balance, then your leg work, then your body work, and your hands and arm work after that. And so we're going to focus on stage 2 of that today, which is how the knees work, how the legs work, and how your bum works, how the glutes work. I've got TrackMan outdoors today, and I've got a slightly different view on it. So here we have on my iPad, which may work better for you. Let me just see if we get it there in the light. On this screen here, you'll see the ball flight. Hopefully it's a blue line. Might not be perfectly visible for you. And then it gives you the data panels on this side of the screen here. I carried that one 200 yards in the air. It rolled 11 yards. And I've got my various data points underneath that, which I'll talk about. Because of the question that's been asked today, a lot of them are related back to the previous session and how I can explain something for you. I'm using a 4-iron here, by the way. Alrighty, so let's get started then. So, last week we talked about footwork and balance and how the feet and the leg and the feet are positioned. You can recall from this angle here, we talked about the right foot being square and the left foot pointing out slightly. The body balance then is slightly angled this way, from the right heel to the left big toe. And indeed, I watched a video 2-3 nights ago, Steve Elkington, US PGA champion in 93, I think it was, and he took his shoes off and he was showing how much he presses his left big toe into the ground. He puts so much force in that part of the ground there because that enables his knees to work properly. So today we're going to move up to the knees. So watch me here in a swing. I set myself up and my right knee goes back as I swing the club back, and that allows the whole of my right side to turn. Remember, it's not a phrase I use anymore, it's to turn. I think about putting the right side behind me, but for all intents and purposes, I've said to turn for years and years. We may as well use it as part of the dialogue here. So as I set up here to the ball, right foot is square, and that puts my right knee in the best position to go backwards. If the right knee goes backwards, so does my hip, and most importantly, my bum. There are no muscles in the hip, there's a huge muscle in the bum. Now, Ben Hogan had a huge bum, very, very strong in his bum. And when he swung, he pulled it back. And we call that position going very deep here. Now, I assure you, if you look at tour professionals when they swing, they don't turn and stay on the same point. They turn, inverted commas, that way. And so the bum goes behind them. So as I'm swinging the club back, my right knee straightens and my right hip goes behind me. Now, this is where we start getting into swing tuition evolution. I've done this myself. When David Ledbetter became very famous for remodeling Nick Faldo's swing, he sent out loads of books, and professionals like myself read them, and we all tried to teach the same way. One of the premises of Faldo's teaching was that he said, oh, you've got to keep your right knee solid and your leg completely bent. So do not straighten that right knee. And Faldo would give us video lessons, say you've got to keep in this position here and restrict the movement of the right knee. But I've got loads of videos of him winning his tournaments at the time he was doing these videos, and he's pulling his right knee backwards as he swings. The vast majority, not all, the vast majority of tour professionals, when they swing back, create a gap between this knee and this knee here. So if I then get into my videos here, my pictures here, let's look at that from a very modern perspective of Justin Thomas, one of the world's players. And then look at that there. So that's Justin Thomas. If you take the top pictures there, you see a real difference between the top three pictures in the gap between his legs. And if you look at the bottom three pictures, you see a huge amount of knee bend going into the swing there. So then look at the activity. Don't look at his upper body, his hands, arms, or his head. Just look at the activity in his lower body, and that's his footwork, his knee work, and his bum work. Now, Tiger Woods was ridiculed a few years ago. In fact, I'll get the video up for you now. But I'll show you it later because I have to take off my YouTube, my Wi-Fi for TrackMan. I'll show you it shortly. But Woods was ridiculed for saying, oh, I didn't work my glutes well enough today. And it was the time of his career, which when he was just coming back from injury and all the humiliation of his scandals. And of course, the press mocked him. Oh, Tiger Woods isn't using his bum properly. But how dare those professionals mock him? Because he was 100% correct. And if you look at the great photographs of yesteryear, let's look at one here we've got from Hogan. Well, let's look at Jack Nicklaus there. Look how his bum is coming backwards. He's pushing and opening up the front of his body by pulling his bum backwards. And if you look at any of the great photographs of any of the tour pros, in fact, there's Ben Hogan now. I mean, look at that. There's no restriction in his hip motion at all there. Hope we can just catch that in the correct light. I know there's lots of glare today, but you should be able to see some part of this. When I watch the videos back, I'm aware of what you're watching. But you can just see there, Hogan, how far back his bum has gone. You can't even see the side of his body. You can only see the front of his body. So when we talk about hip turn, and I always say inverted commas, it's because we don't really turn the hips. The hips can't turn independently. They're attached to your legs and to your back. So how they can work on their own is not the case. Your legs do so much work. And think about when you go to a gym, what you can press, push, and pull with your legs compared to with your hips. You can't actually use your hips to do anything. Compare the power in your legs compared to the power in your arms. If you go to the gym, what can you lift with your arms is a very small amount compared to what you can do with your legs. So we have to engage the legs. And in part of my retooling as a coach, I've worked an awful lot on how the legs work in the swing. And I've had some fantastic results out of it. Because for years, not for at least a decade now, we taught, oh, you've got to restrict the movements of your legs, keep that right knee solid, whilst the pros were doing something completely different. Now, the benefit of YouTube, the benefit of Twitter especially, and what the pros put up themselves online now, is we see exactly what they do. We also understand that even at their level, they can confuse what they're doing with what they're saying. They may say one thing, but their swing looks different. And so feel and real, you've heard me use this phrase before, feel and real are not the same thing. So let's get back to how the legs work. From this angle here, I pull my right leg back, my left leg back. Then look at that motion there. That's a tremendous motion for building your golf swing. I assure you, if you do these exercises in your garden 15 minutes a day, they'll have a huge impact on developing your golf swing. You don't see good players slide. In the old days, even back into the 80s when Seve was the world's best player, he would slide his knees this way and finish back here. It's not a position you see anymore. And you think what a player he was, and also the impact that he had on the game was massive. But he wouldn't swing the same way today. And players like Seve were huge Good morning, Mike. You should work in forget about it. Tell me you're on a course. Officially, I'm on a course. I'm teaching you, so you're on a course today. So, we talk about the knee slide. Sebi wouldn't swing the same way today. He was a huge user of the latest technology when he was the best player in the world. He would have used the same technology today. So if you look here, that's a picture there of Tom Watson. And again, look at that knee slide. You simply will not see pros slide their knees like that today. There's Sebi in his pump. If you can just see it there, you see he's bending his knees and leaning back, all that pressure on his back. And there he is at Lytham St Anne's in 1988. Very famous photograph, that, probably the most glamorous, elegant shot of Sebi in his pump. But look how his knees are working. The pros simply don't move their knees like that anymore, because they know so much more now. So if I then take you back to how the pros do work now, let's take a look here at these pictures. So look at this one here. First of all, this is Bubba, straight legs on the way through. Straight legs. Now look at that again, Justin Thomas. What a swing that is, so athletic. If you look at the leg on this side of the screen, his left leg, look how straight that is compared to what Sebi was doing when Sebi was sliding. So in all these, I mean, look at that for a dynamic action shot. So let's work now on what we're looking at there with Justin Thomas on his left leg. And look at his left foot, this foot here, off the ground. This tells you everything you need to know now about how the legs and feet should work. Now, these are supreme athletes in their early 20s. I'm not asking you to swing and jump off the ground like he's doing there. What I'm demonstrating to you is the most extreme version of the golf swing. We have to try and adopt some of these actions here. And I said in one of my recorded articles recently, if you can walk to a golf lesson, you can use your legs better in a golf swing. So, on the way back, the right leg straightens. On the way through, the left leg straightens. And as you see, I'm doing that exercise, I'm pulling that right knee back, and I'm actually getting a little drag on the ground. My right foot moves out of position. That's just an exercise and a drill. On the through swing, it's what I intend to do. So why is that? What we know through TrackMan and through the evolution of the swing is that the minute this left knee bends, the body slides the target and it can't get out of the way to deliver the blow. So I move out of the way to deliver the blow. As I pull my left side back, my right side, bang, comes into the ball. So as I said to you last time, I'm doing some work now, I have done for the past 2 years, with Lee Cox, who teaches these guys hit the ball 400 yards, driving the second green. Never fails to amaze me, that. So this guy here hit this drive into the wind, 414 yards. Look at that. Now look at the gap between his hands and his midriff and his waist and his hips. And look how straight his legs are. And look where his toes are and where his heels are. Look where his feet are going. They're going this way. He's pulling away from the ball, which is a really counterintuitive way of thinking about the golf swing. But it's what they do. So in the extreme version of how to bomb a ball 400 yards, what the bombers know is that if the left leg pulls backwards during the swing, it spins the body around and multiplies the power of the club head. As I move out of the way, bang, into the back of the ball. So working from the ground up, feet, as we talked about, square, spread out slightly to allow us to turn. Weight from right heel to left toe. The backswing is the right hip pushing backwards, the right bum pushing backwards. And that's facilitated by this motion of the right knee straightening here. As I come down, I straighten the left side, and that creates all the room to throw myself forwards into the ball. So when I work with the long driving coach, and I'm picking his brains all the time about what he's doing, is what these guys do here, these 400-yard bombers, is what they do is they carry a huge 50-kilogram weight, 100-pound weight. And what they do is they hold it onto their chest here, and the exercises they do are right leg back, and then they jump and push themselves around like this. So why are they doing that? Because they're using the ground and using their legs to achieve it. they're not swinging with their hands and arms, these little weak muscles in comparison to your thigh muscle compared to even your bicep or your tricep. If those legs are really activating, your hands and arms simply swing into position. So if I hit a shot here now, set myself up, as I swing back, I straighten my right knee and I pull my right bum cheek backwards. On the return, the opposite happens. Now for years, we've been saying, oh, try and start the downswing with your left hip. How on earth can you do that? The hips can't work independently. They're attached to the top of your leg and they're attached to the base of your spine. And that's why so many of us, and so many of you, over the years, when you're trying to get the left hip out of the way, you've got yourself into this awkward position here. Hello slice, hello shank. You ain't gonna hit a straight one from there. In this position here, now if the left side pulls backwards, look at that, bang, into the smack of the ball, back of the ball, to my target. Set myself up, long lever between the left arm shaft of the club, none of this. Right bum back. I initiate my swing, this is just a personal thing. I initiate my swing with a pull back of my right side, particularly my bum, my right knee. Alrighty. Let's see what happened there. Got some data out of it. Okay, so. And this is a continuation now of what I've talked about in the past. So you'll see there, I hit my forehand, I carried it in the air, 196.3 yards. That gave me 12 yards of roll, which would be about right, I would think. My path was 3.8 on the inside. That number there, which is great for me. I'm very happy with that. Remember, oblique is weak in golf. You've got to hit the ball from the inside. Club speed 93. The pros would be about 1 mile an hour faster than that. Now height 100 foot. You see where it says height 100.7. Now what I talked about last time, the world's best players are trying to consistently fly the height of their ball 100 foot in the air. So the flight I've just put on that ball there, I'd be quite happy with. 100 foot of flight. Now I talked last week about low point. Now with a 4-iron, that's 1.2 inches after the ball. This data point here, low point. Oops. 1.2 after the ball. I'm going to answer a question today asked by Mark Hayes about is there a low point after the ball with other clubs? And no, it's not. I should have made that clear last time. The low point with the driver is after the ball. That's what we're going to talk about very, very shortly. Alrighty, so where are we now? Okay, so Quentin Roby sent me an email yesterday or 2 days ago asking about some sessions specifically for senior members of the club, male or female. I'll be doing those next week. You're absolutely right, Quentin, because a limited range of motion or different ways of swinging as one gets older is a huge part of the game, massive part of the game. We'll do that next week. Okay, so then we get into David Bouch. When does a draw become a hook? Now, I taught David a little over a year ago now to try and manipulate a draw spin. And what I was doing with David was focusing on this number here that I've circled. I'll put the ellipse around. Club path. Now my club path is 3.8 from the inside there. So what does that mean? If you can see the bunker which you're familiar with on the right hand side of the fairway there, that's my alignment. It's where TrackMan is measuring me from. So my path into the ball on that last shot there is 3.8. I'm coming at 3.8 degrees from here. What I talked to David about was saying, look, all the good players hit from the inside. So get 3, 4, 5 degrees, 6 degrees, whatever the number is on the inside. If I do that a bit too much, I then put a bank on the ball. So when I hit a golf ball, if I come from this angle here, it makes the ball tilt over to the left a bit too much. Now that's great if you get a 1 or 2 degree tilt, a bit like a plane. 0 degree tilt, 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees tilt left of target, makes the plane of the golf ball swing over. So when we hit the golf ball from the inside, remember this position here I talked about, from here to here, where all the good players hit the ball from, that will not hit the golf ball straight. It will hit it on target, but not straight. So as I hit on this plane into the ball from here into the ball, that delivers a blow where the ball tilts, has backspin, but it tilts to the left. So in your case, David, you're just putting a bit too much sherry in the trifle there. And as you're coming way on the inside, you're overdoing the impetus we talked about last time. And it's a very key component to learning the game and for us teaching the game. When you first have an impetus put into your swing, it feels dramatic. And then you spend the rest of your time looking for that same dramatic feeling for the impetus. But over time, you've gotten used to it. As you've gotten used to the impetus, you don't have to think about it quite so much. So every swing thought will have a shelf life. Gary Player famously quoted about Jack Nicklaus's swing, saying, like, Jack changed his swing every week. Jack had a different swing every week. Now, I was very fortunate to meet Jack Nicklaus last year, and I asked him the same question about his swing, about how do you change it each week. He said, I just reacted to what my ball flight was doing. If it was going left, I tried to hit a little bit further right. Now, Jack Nicklaus has made a career habit of playing down his achievements and playing down his talents, but he's absolutely right. Simplify the game. If you want to make a change to your swing, then do it. Nobody swings consistently all the time. Tiger Woods has gone through loads of evolutions in his golf swing. Lots of changes he's made to his swing, ball position, swing position, and then lots of different angles in his swing there. We should do the same. The minute we start playing badly, look for a change, because you will not have the same feeling in your swing all the time. It may look the same. This I do assure you. I've done loads of videos over the years of people put side-by-side comparisons. They're hitting the ball completely differently, but the swing might look very similar, but it feels very different. So in your case, David, lessen the impetus, how much you come from the inside. Probably just overdoing it a bit. Okay, Michael Wright asked a question about his limited follow-through. Now, Michael is a keen former hockey player, and he says that his hockey swing is his golf swing as he went from hockey to golf. Very, very common this from sports people to go from one sport to the next, but still have their old technique. Ian Chapman, someone I'm very fond of, who I teach at the club here, left-handed golfer. We had a conversation only 3 weeks ago where I was saying when Ian first started learning with me, he tried to relate everything in his swing back to what he understood about tennis. Because he understood tennis, he understood the technique of tennis. He's very much into the science and the detail and the data of the tennis swing. And over time now, he talks much less about tennis and more about golf swing because he understands his golf swing more. So it's very common to take your history as a sports person into a sport that you learn for the first time new, like golf. And golf is a very difficult sport to learn. So just out of interest, Michael, I've just hit my 4-iron there, 196 yards on the fly. I'm going to limit my follow through now. Let's see what percentage distance I lose. I didn't flush that one. I've hit one or two today, which have gone maybe 5 yards further, say 201 yards of carry, but I carried that one there, 196. Let's see if I limit my follow through, how much power I do lose. My typical follow through position would be body to the target, hands wrapped around here. I struck that poorly, so I'll hit another one. Okay, limited follow through. You can see how much I stuck there. Still got my body turning, but I limited my arm swing to about here. I had to really grip it tight to do that. So 196 became 186, a full 10 yards of distance loss, 5% distance loss. Now, the follow through is super key. Now, if you see what I said instinctively there, in order for me to limit the length of my follow through, I grip the club tightly. In your case, Michael, hold the club a little lighter, and that should let the club naturally fling through a bit. Now, I'm not a hockey player, so I've not had a history of stopping and smacking and hitting at the ball. It's not a terrible thing to have. Hockey's about hit, short, smack at the back of the ball. We don't make a long, elegant swing in hockey, and every golfer could do with a hit. But in my case here, I'm losing just shy of 5% distance, or there, about 5% distance on my carry. You're making the golf course 5% longer by limiting your follow through each time. So hold the club a little lighter and allow it to follow through a bit more. Okay, Mark Hayes asked a question subsequent to my previous lesson about the low point. So if we look on my iron swing here, I've just hit the last shot there. The low point was, I'm putting the ellipse around the data panel I want you to look at. My low point was 3.7 inches after the ball. So if we look at the arrow on the shaft of my rescue wood here, what that means is as I swung, the club descended, the arrow's pointing down to the ball, made contact with the ball, then the low point of my arc, where the arrow is parallel to the ground, is after the ball, 3.7 inches in that case. That's a disaster with the driver. It's an absolute killer with the driver. And the reason for that is that because the driver, my driver, has 9 degrees of face angle, measured from here to here, we want that driver to ascend as it hits the ball to launch the ball high. Ascend, where the arrow is pointing, to hit the ball high. And that is why we place the driver so far forward in the stance here. Big high T-peg, ball forward in the stance. Left arm shaft of the club in this position here. You should see my arrows pointing upwards already. Then as I make my swing and I come into the ball, I'm on the ascent to hit the ball. This is how we optimize power. Now it'd be logical to think, well, why don't you just put more loft on the club and put it in the middle of your stance? The problem is that creates too much spin. As the ball spins backwards, goes very high, and then starts to sort of climb instead of pushing forward there. Now here's another image for you. Every golf ball ever struck has backspin on it. So as I hit a driver here and hit the ball, it rolls up the face and then flies like that. So every shot's got backspin on it. If I come down on the ball, it can't really roll up the face. There's not enough loft. And so it's got more chance of sliding across the face. You then increase the likelihood of a ball sliding right or sliding left. So we're always trying to elevate the ball. If I hit a driver now, I'm looking for about 3 or 4 degrees of elevation, ascent into my driver. My attack angle with the 4-iron, I put an ellipse around it, was minus 3.8. So my club was on the descent to the ball. I expect that. And it's 3.8 degrees of descent into the ball. I'm now going to hit a driver. Four left. Alrighty. My attack angle there has gone from a minus 3 point whatever it was to a plus. If there's no minus there, it becomes a plus 5.6. So that tells you that my low point there, just above here, was 6.3 inches before the ball. So during the arc of my swing there, I'll leave the data there so you can see it. The white bar here is my descending part of the swing. The blue bar is my ascending part of the swing. I know they're crude, but you get the point. My club's descending here, low point here, ascending here. With the driver, I place my ball around about here. So the low point's before the ball, that's the golf ball there, say. As I smack the ball, my club head's ascending, it helps the ball to elevate. With my wedges, got my sand wedge here, ball back in the stance, the ball's there, club head is descending, makes contact with the ball there, low point after the ball with the irons, remember, and then it comes up on the blue line here. Downswing, low point, upswing. So you're quite right to ask the question there, Mark, because it clarifies the difference between where the low point of the swing ought to be and where the ascent and where the strike ought to be. So that driver there did go left, boy, oh boy. A mere 172 foot left of target, that one there. Now I said to you last week that my typical shape is right to left. I wouldn't be trying to put 55 foot of hook on the ball. That's 54 foot of hook on the ball, that's for sure. So I carried it 263 yards, and that's absolutely redundant distance for me because it's so far left of target. I will try and hit a better one for you now, just for vanity's purposes. just like I mentioned to David Bouch earlier, if you do hook the ball a bit too much, I've obviously come a bit too much from the inside, turn it over a bit. Let's see if I can rectify that now. Further left. Golf is tough, folks. All right. Woo. Okay, let's see. Not great, I'll be honest. I got the hook on board today, but anyway, I hit it 263 yards with a mere 107 foot of hook on it this time. So 35 yards of hook. It's not bad for me, actually. 35 yards of hook, I'll take that. I just keep aiming further and further right. Low point was 1.5 inches before the ball, and my attack angle was 1.2 on the ascent. Alrighty. Jane Peel then asked the question, why are long irons harder to hit than short irons? Jane's a good player, by the way. Single-figure golfer, played for Wales in a youth, and a lovely striker with a golf ball. Hasn't taken many lessons over the year. Before I came here, she'd never taken a golf lesson. She had a couple of me over the years. So in answer to Jane's question there's not enough loft on the face angle. Now, if I take my driver, I can hit a driver off a very low tee peg or off the deck. So I want to hit this ball now off a super, super low tee peg. And that makes it so much harder to hit because the strike's going to come from way down here. It's not coming off the middle of the face. I'm losing all that power. Now remember, I've hit my drive's about 260 today. I've pegged that ball right down. This is the ultimate test of a drive, really. Can I get the ball airborne? Very low, thin. Naturally a bit left. And I've carried that 235 yards. So 30 yards loss of distance. The short answer is, Jane, the club wants to get underneath the ball. And the easiest way for a club to get under the ball is to have a loft on it. So a driver, which has a massive head, huge tee peg, the club sits underneath the ball, dead easy. A long iron has much less loft. So you might swing the same way, but boy, oh boy, does that driver, that long iron need a lot of club head speed. This is why we sell so many rescue woods. I carry long irons in my bag. It's one of my favorite clubs to hit, but I know the rescue wood is much easier to hit and much more useful in the bag. So in essence, don't get hung up on long irons because you're never going to become the best player you can be by becoming a good long iron player. You've got to be good with the driver, good with the wedges, good with the putter. Alrighty, so I've covered all the questions there. We've certainly talked about the leg action. Are there any questions that you have about what we've talked about or previously what we've talked about or anything that's bothering you about the game in general? I'll wait a minute or so. Just try and pop up a question on the sidebar there. And while you're doing that, I'll get the Tiger Woods video up for you. I've been talking about his bum. Hope you're enjoying skiving, Mike. It's not a crusade, is it? Might well enjoy yourself. Okay, so Tiger Woods here. Let me just get the volume up for you. Okay, so it's not great sound quality. I'll put it quite close to the camera for you. But Tiger Woods essentially is talking here about his glutes, about how he got cold after warming up. It's 2015, I think it was a year. He got cold after warming up and said he couldn't work his glutes properly. Now, loads of pros in the on TV go very critical and start to mock him a little bit. They were completely out of order, really. So let me just show you here. Warm-up session the first time around. When we stood out here, I got cold. Everything started deactivating again. It's frustrating that I just can't stay activated.
same thing. The boss just my glutes are shutting off, and then they don't activate, and then hence it goes into the lower back. So I tried to activate my glutes as best I could in between, but they never stayed activated.
So his glutes never stayed activated. There's a guy, and again, strong bum, very strong legs, very strong back, even though the problems that he's had. He was talking about how he activates his glutes. So working from the ground up, puts his feet in a certain position, moves his knees, gets his right glute going backwards. Very rarely talk about the hips now, and talking about how strong, how his glutes deactivated. They cool down a little bit. He couldn't work his back as well as possible. Okay, so Robert's asked me to see my swing in slow motion. Let's have a look. That's the first motion. Right knee back, bum back. From this angle here, you won't see my right hip slide at all. It will go this way. To here. From there, left leg straighten, into the back of the ball, drag the right foot along, into follow through. Lesson there for us all, isn't there? Slow down, you hit it further and straighter. Alrighty, any more questions about what we talked about? Anything that you want to talk about? Okay, folks, well, thanks for tuning in. Great to see you all. I am back again on Friday doing a session for the juniors and the cadets, which you're more than welcome to join in. And then on Saturday, we go right back into the detail of the swing. Very heavy technical scientific session on Saturday, which again, you're more than welcome to join. Don't get too upset or too turned off by science. You can pick little snippets of it which might be of interest to you. Science doesn't make you a better swinger or a better golfer, but it's interesting to a lot of people. What makes you a better golfer is understanding what you need to do rather than the full science of a golf swing. So in the meantime, I wish you all well. Hope you all stay healthy. Hope you all stay sane. That's the most important thing, right? And I look forward to seeing you all next time. So thank you very much for your time and see you again. Thanks again, Gene. Thank you, Eugene. Thanks very much indeed. All the best. Cheerio.